patience and time. So this training, we are having a cross session of live audience. We're also having the online participant here. I'm going to quickly introduce who our next facilitator is. Dr. Ehi Iden is an occupational health and safety management consultant. He's a doctoral fellow in workplace health and wellness promotion. He works as a CEO at Occupational Health and Safety Managers and head of faculty of OSHversity. He's a mental health ambassador and a member external review group to the WHO on mental health at workplaces. A member Occupational Health and Safety Expert Group to African Union. So this morning, we welcome Dr. Ehi Iden to this training, and we are glad to have you, esteemed doc. So the floor is yours now.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and I want to thank the organizers for inviting me for this great program. Permit me, I'm actually outside, speaking from outside right now, so you may hear some pockets of noise. Okay, so we'll be looking at somebody. IODG, you have to off your mic.
Okay, thank you.
So with the time I have at my disposal,
Dr. Ehi, can you unmute yourself so that you can? I muted everybody.
okay, let me share all over again. Can you hear me now? See my slide now?
Yes, you can see it.
I've been trying to that program. You know this one.
There's somebody is talking still.
He said you parked there this morning. I said I didn't see that. I didn't have to from that.
Can I go on?
Yes, you can go on, Doc.
Okay. Like I was saying, whatever we do, we have levels of exposure in our workplaces, and this exposure leads us to high level of risk. And most of those risks that we are exposed to, they impact negatively on our health. They may not show now, but it's like what you eat now that you will pay for later in the evening of your life. And that's why it is very important that we look at these things closely and see how we can mitigate them and control them, so that even the exposures that we go through will leave us with minimal risk. We need to, when understanding chemicals, we need to understand that chemical is any distinct compound or substance, especially one which has been artificially prepared or purified. And these are the compound that we inhale, we work with in our daily basis. And when we take it from the rule of thumb, the policy or standard has said that there is no need for us to mix chemicals. When we mix chemicals to come together, what we have is chemical reaction, and every chemical reaction that we have leaves us with risk. A clear example is mixing sodium hypochlorite and ammonia. And when you do that, what you have at the end of the day is a blue flame that you inhale. This blue flame is very hazardous and can kill you instantly. If you don't die instantly, you suffer for the rest of your life for just that exposure. Where are these chemicals found? These chemicals are found everywhere, wherever we work, based on the kind of job that we do. You find them in different ways, in factories, in shops, in laboratories, in offices, in farms, in the home, in gardens, and everywhere. Everywhere we turn to, we have chemicals. Even as COVID-19 came, chemical exposure became high. I mean, for high use of chemical became so prevalent in our daily life. I mean, in terms of cleaning of our floors, doing deep cleaning of surfaces, in all this we use chemicals. But for us who are pest control experts, we are even more at risk because there is no job that we do not use chemical. And that's why it is important that we keep this in mind, that these things are all hazardous. When you talk of chemical hazard, they come in form of flammables, in form of corrosive chemicals, toxins chemicals, and reactive chemicals. And these all put our entire life at risk. And that's why we must be very careful when we work and handle chemicals. So what could be the risk of chemicals and substances that we use? And this in the long run cause so much adverse event to us. They come in form of poisoning. I mentioned when you mix chemicals together earlier on, and it comes with blue flames. What you have is outright poisoning. So those poisoning, they have a high possibility of killing us, of affecting our lungs, of affecting our kidneys, and causing high level of health harm. Then some of them can also affect our breathing problems. We have respiratory issues because of continuous use of chemical. They come in form of toxins and our body react to it. Then we also have chemicals that are common as a topical chemical that we use that touch our skin. They could actually destroy our skin, cause skin reaction, our skin rashes, and all have you. We also have what you call allergic reaction from chemical. Your body immune system just has a way of reacting to these chemicals, and this also causes some other health risk, and not just that, causes physical and biological discomfort. We have allergic sensitization. Then on the long run, most chemicals also lead to cancer and other health risks. Underline that cancer has become so prevalent, and this is very important that we take care and manage chemical properly. Most time when we talk of chemicals, most of us think, when we carry gallons of chemical and start pouring into. No, that's not all. I'll share a clear example here. That even the soap that we use, the body lotion that we use, and these are all the drugs that we take. These all have some levels of chemicals. There's a very clear case I can clearly remember where a woman that was having some underlying health risk and kept going to the hospital. And this was not on top of her skin, but having health risk and kept going to the hospital. She done that for so many months. But she went to a doctor sometime, and the doctor was an occupational doctor. And the doctor said, I haven't done all he has to do. He said, what soap do you use? He told the woman to bring forth the soap. And the woman brought forth the soap. And the doctor said, okay, what you will do right now is stop this soap and let's see how this comes out. She stopped using the soap, and those things she was feeling, they subsided greatly. So the doctor said, okay, what you do, start the soap again, let's see. She started the soap, and those health issues that she was having, they all came up. But the truth is that you may not see soap you may not see the use of soap as using chemicals. But what really happened was that the chemical component in that soap that was permissible was too high. And if you look at what happened, what was documented as the content of the soap, those that manufactured the soap wrote a certain value, which of course the FDA approved for them, that was permissible, that would be useful for human skin. But what they had producing for market use, the chemical constituent that was harmful was higher than what they actually submitted to FDA. So that was what was causing the woman's problem. So you see, that was exposure to chemical by absorption. But we'll generally feel, what's soap? Soap is not hazardous, but you can see how hazardous soap became through just the use of soap. So we have a lot of materials, like even the building materials, all of them have chemicals. Talking about asbestos that we use in our houses, all of them have chemicals. So even the brake pad we use in our vehicles, all of them have chemicals. So quite a lot of issues happen around this dimension. What are the global concerns on the risk of chemical? Death, according to the WHO, death due to exposure to hazardous chemicals worldwide rose by 29% in 2019 from what they were in 2016. And according to the latest estimate by the World WHO, you can see in 2019, the hazard rose by 29%. So we don't know what it is right now that we're even in 2022. So can you see my slide now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I lost connection there. So there are also chemical present in the air as aerosol, through aerosol particles and a number of other areas, as these also cause us great problem. Then, but the truth is, what are the routes of exposure? How do we get exposed to these chemicals? Scientists have said that there are 4 routes of exposure to chemical. One of them is through inhalation. When you inhale those chemicals, they go straight to your heart and your lungs, and your liver. Through ingestion, when you ingest chemicals, I mean, when you talk about inhalation, is the kind of job that we do. What we are exposed to is chemical inhalation, because we inhale them, because chemicals we use for pest control, they are in the air. So we inhale them when we don't use the right kind of PPE, and this goes to affect our kidney and our liver and our lungs as well. Then you have chemical through ingestion. When you ingest this chemical, they go to your intestine, and this leads to, that's why you have people having running stomach, having several that kind of reaction. You have chemical by absorption, those that work and have chemical exposure that spray into their eyes. And that's why we have things like eye wash station. That's why we have things like eye wash station in some areas where our work area. Somebody's microphone is on. We are echoing. I think this is Prince. We are echoing. I think this is Prince. Microphone is on. So we have chemical exposure through injection also. You ingest it through chemical, and this is what you have the people who are actually used to drug abuse. This is what they use also, and even for medication. And what are the areas you can see right now? What do we need to do when you have them available, even in where you do fumigations? Those who work with upholstery, those who work in painting, we are all exposed to chemicals. You can see different degree of chemicals. But the truth is that where we know that they are available, we also stand a great chance to be able to protect ourselves when we use the right kind of PPEs. We also have them available in using firewood to cook. And most of us don't see this as chemical exposure. I mean, firewood has been seen as petroleum products. So the report says that 93,000 people die annually from inhaling firewood smoke. This is also chemical exposure, and this we should also keep in mind. So what I'm trying to say here, right, is that not just when we see people turning content from gallon to gallon or container to container, that is not the only place we have chemicals. Chemicals are available everywhere, and they will cause us high level of chemical risk. Then zeroing on what we really do, talk about pesticide exposure, danger of pesticide exposure, harmful to both environment and health. You know, when we're talking about One Health right now, which of course is the global advocacy, talking about the health of human beings, health of environment, and the health of plants. And we should consider also that the environment is an integral part of risk that will have chemical exposure. Pesticide are stored in your colon. That means where they slowly but surely poison the body. We saw when we saw earlier on by ingestion, chemicals, they go to the colon, and from there they settle in, and over time they poison and they inject, they become harm to your body. After countless studies, pesticides have been linked to cancer, to Alzheimer's disease, and even birth defects. So you have children who are born, and you have what you call congenital mutilation. Children coming in, the nose is a little cut, the ear is not completely formed. I'm sure you have seen this mostly in war-torn areas that just finished fighting war, or where war is being fought, and you see those bomb explosion. These are all chemicals, and these have great effects on overall well-being of birth, children that are just born, neonates. Pesticides also have the potential to harm the nervous system, the reproductive system, and the endocrine system. And that's why we talk about through ingestions, these things have a whole lot of exposure to risk in your body. Exposure damages various system organs such as the kidney and the liver. I want to speak clearly on this. When we talk about chemical handlers test, which you must look at after now, we are trying to protect the kidney and the liver. For those who are involved in direct chemical exposure, as those who are involved in pesticide business, direct exposure of chemical to your lungs and kidneys, and these are two critical organs you need to live healthy and good life afterwards. But the truth is that we may not protect those parts right now, but the truth is that, are we going to pay for it in the evening of our life? That is very correct. We pay for it, but it's important, because I'm not an advocate of compensation. I'm an advocate of prevention. If we can prevent it right now, we're able to live good health even after our work. But when we don't protect ourselves, most times we don't even check what is the level of chemical that I have in my system. Do I do chemical handlers test every 6 months as the law requires? We don't do that. So it's very important that you keep that in mind, that when you are using chemicals as a pest control professional, your kidneys and your liver are at risk. And these are two critical organs you need to live a good life. Then we also have what we call reduced ability of your blood to clot. Because of exposure to chemicals, your blood is not able to clot properly, and these are great issues that you must give attention to. We look at here, hazards equals to toxicity times exposure. This is how you determine the risk in chemical exposure. Now, we also want to look at it, the effect. Chemical doesn't just affect your external part. Look at the effect on your skin, and it causes great skin damage. You can see the lady on this slide. Look at her skin. Look at how it looks. It looks spotty. Why? Because she has been exposed to chemicals. And most of us who also use creams that have high level of chemicals, which of course, when you absorb into your body, they damage your skin. These are some of the things you get. And you can see the man that has these two hands. This is a clear case of chemical exposure leading to things like dermatitis and all have you. And these are clear risks that we have by using chemicals without adequate protection. Is very important. Now that we know the risk, what do we do? Now that we know the risk, what must we do? We must work with chemicals with available precaution. Every chemical that was produced come with a level of precaution. No vehicle manufacturer manufactures vehicle without a manual. Every chemical has a manual, have what you call the global harmonized standard, which of course we used to know as the MSDS. Material safety data sheet. Every chemical has those documents that come with how does the manufacturer want us to manage these chemicals. But one thing we found out in our environment is that most of us don't even read manuals. We start using the products when we get stuck or we run into a problem. So it's okay, what is even the manual that came with this product? Every manufacturer chemical leaves a manual inside on the safe handling of that chemical. We should understand that this is a very crucial document that will tell us how to the precautionary measures we need to deploy in chemical usage. Every chemical must be used with recommended PPEs. Even in the manual, recommended PPEs are also very important. Let me quickly stop and share here. We did chemical handlers test for a certain organization. We've done it for the past 3 sessions, but we realized the risk of respiratory issue kept going high, and the restrictions and all have you kept going high. But what we found out is that the PPEs we recommended for them to use after the SSI, they didn't use it. They're using they're using the regular surgical mask. Regular surgical mask will not protect you against chemical exposure. Regular surgical mask could protect you against infections like biological or bacterial infection that are in the air, but cannot protect you against some of these strong and toxic chemicals. You need to deploy what you call the N95 mask, which gives you 95% protection. That's the right PPE for chemical use. In terms of mask. We need to ensure that the global, that's the GHS, what we used to know as MSDS, of all chemicals accompanies our purchases. This is what we talk about safety in supply chain. Supply chain also has a high level of safety, because when you buy the wrong kind of chemicals or buy from the wrong source, there's every possibility that those chemicals may come with a formulary that is higher than what is the required limit or doses, and this may also cause you a whole lot of adverse effects. So we must ensure that from supply chain we buy from reliable sources. You must also learn to train all employees on safe use and handling of chemicals. Nobody was born and the person came to this world knowing how to handle chemicals. Everyone that handled chemicals safely today was trained on the right use and handling of chemicals. Learn to train your employees. Training can never be enough. Train and retrain and retrain and retrain. Just keep training them, and when issues happen, take that issue up, discuss it, train them again on that issue, so that we can reduce the level of exposure that happens in our workplaces. Institute administrative control for chemical exposure. And what I mean by this is that when we have people that have worked for too long a time in an area that is they handle chemicals all the time, what you can do is take them out of direct exposure to chemicals and perhaps take them to an area where they can read the result that we generate after the field work. And what you're doing with that is that you are using what you call administrative control to reshuffle the positioning, so that those who were not exposed to chemical for a long time can go and get exposed to chemical. When you do this, you reduce the dosage of this chemical within that system, and it can actually help them. The formula we use for that is DE/FE. That's the duration of exposure over frequency of exposure. And how long do they get exposed to chemicals? Do they use chemical for about 4 to 5 hours or 6 hours a day continuously? How frequently do they do this job every day? This is the formula for managing these processes. We also have what we call safe procurement of chemicals. I mentioned that earlier on. Supply chain management is very crucial in ensuring that we get the right kind of chemicals that does not leave us with increased adverse effect or harm us on the long run. Then we have what are the kind of PPEs for chemicals? Like I mentioned earlier on, we need the N95 nose mask. These are the ones that are recommended for chemical for protection as PPEs in chemical use. And we need things like goggles, because chemical could spill in your eyes also, and when it spill in your eyes, and this also causes you a whole lot of damage. That's very important. We need chemical to protect our eyes, and we need the required PPEs. Don't use chemicals without the requisite PPE. Your body must be protected, your skin must be protected, because chemicals have huge adverse effects on skin. So also ensure that you also use the required safety boots, because your feet also has skin, and it's also at risk at exposure to chemicals. And above everything else, learn to use the hand gloves, require hand gloves, not the surgical gloves, require hand gloves. But I must pause to say here that there are some chemicals whose toxicity level have been measured, and is seen to be too high, and leaves the user with higher level of risk. Such chemicals, you don't just use nose masks, you use what you call respirators, so that you can have place to breathe, and this protects you more than what the N95 nose mask could do for you. So these are some of the things ways we protect ourselves against chemical exposure. And above everything else, it's important that we take proactive intervention. Ensure you do pre-employment medicals in recruitment. When you do not do pre-employment medicals in your recruitment process, what you just do is that you employ someone whose kidney and whose kidney and liver are already failing. Why? Because his work is a chemist, has worked in diverse places, and nobody ever checked those organs. Then you employ the person without pre-employment medical evaluation, and the person comes into your employment 3 months after the person starts falling sick, going in and out of hospital. Your head budget for the year is gone now because of the person's visit to the hospital. But the truth is, if we had done what we ought to do, checking his health status before we employ him, would have known the category he belongs, know that he is disqualified from employment, but you now put him in nowhere to slot him in an area where he doesn't have direct exposure to chemicals that will further worsen his condition. So this is very important. Then you need to conduct chemical handlers tests, and these are done every 6 months. When you do that, actually two critical ingredients are available in this test. One of them is spirometry. Spirometry talks about liver function, heart function, and you do what you call the liver function test. So these are very critical issues, two critical tests that you do when you are doing conducting chemical handlers tests. We do this every time in our organizations. We have companies that we schedule that come to do this every 6 months. It's important that you do this so that, one, it tells you where you are, what is the level that you have, restrictive or obstructive respiratory flow. You need to do this so you know where you are. When you know where you are, you are able to know the intervention you have to deploy to reduce it or be able to manage it, so that you know that you are in a good state. And again, we have people who are asthmatic, and we employ them in our system without adequate protection. This is a disservice to human being, and this is actually not a good one. And again, when we're also using our chemicals to work, like pesticide, always advise people within an environment, because we found out that some buildings that have been where fumigations are done, people that have no business with such fumigation in their respective homes, they are also exposed. So it's very important that we clear that, and we're able to give advisory. When do we vacate the building, how many hours or how many days does the building need for reoccupancy? Because we have seen several incidents where people reoccupy the building and the chemical is still very strong. Some people even faint, by exposure to those chemicals. So these are clear issues. But I need you to understand that this is all about you and your health. You need to personalize your health and know what to do. Because we say, okay, how much will I use for chemical analysis? I can't do this thing. But when your renal failure comes, you spend more money because you are exposed to chemicals. Those who are involved in paint industries, those who are involved in the upholstery industries, these are clear things you use to do. Even petroleum industry, we do every year for those who work in petroleum industry. We do what you call benzene monitoring tests. Benzene is a form of chemical that's found in petroleum products. We do tests for them to monitor the benzene that is available in their system and be able to create intervention, how to manage those things for them. But remember, you may make all the money you have right now, but the truth is that what you ought to do, if you don't do them right now, you make all the money. When you grow old, if the organs are still safe enough to allow you to grow old, the money you think you have saved, you start bringing out the money to look for health you refuse to take care of in the money of your life. So while I round up this money, I need also remember to always declare that my life matters. Outside everything, it's a man that is alive today that lives to work tomorrow. So outside making all the money, remember that firstly, your life matters, your health matters, and learn to take care of this for the sake of your productivity and even at retirement, so that you can live safe. So on this note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and thanks for giving this opportunity. If there are questions, I want to take them right now. If you want to reach me, my email address is on my slide. You can reach me through this email, and we can always talk and discuss this further and clear some issues that you feel you have to clear. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. This is so eye-opening. Can I just give Doctor a round of applause, thank you for such a brilliant session. I believe that everybody online and on site here really enjoyed this section. For you to know, let me just on this video, for you to know the cross section of people online, for you to see cross section of people on site, people that are here on site.
That's huge. Yeah.
And quite a number of people are online too, participating in this. This is about
thank you so much.
To ensure that the industry gets better, people's life matters. We are exposed to chemical every day. And I believe what you've taught us today is just a lot of eye-opener for a lot of us. And this chemical analysis that you mentioned, we need to get more information about it and let us know how we can get this done regularly on a 6-monthly basis for all our staff. Because this is essential. It's not about making money today. It's about, you passed a lot of made a lot of hard sentence in your lecture, and I believe you need the right code, and we are going to be doing the needful. So if I may ask, question and answer time. Do you have anybody in the house on-site here that want to ask Doc any question before I go to the online audience? Question? You want to ask a question? Let me just come close to you. So you introduce yourself and
Thank you so much, sir. My name is Bayo from Green Certificate. Okay, I want to confirm, is there any legal implication to employers to the risk of chemical exposure to their employees, either long-term or short-term?
Okay, Doc, did you get that question?
No, I didn't get it. Please rephrase. Let me put it up. Let me hear you.
Is there any legal implication for employers that may not conduct the test for their staff?
Okay, thank you so much. But I'm an occupational health and safety consultant. I need to first establish here, right, that whether you are involved in a fumigation process, primarily you are an employee, and the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria guides you because it guarantees you that safety. Every employer, it is your responsibility. It is called the duty of care. It is the responsibility of every employer to ensure that these tests are done every year. There's an arm of the Ministry of Health called the Public Health Unit that supervises this. There are sanctions. There are sanctions to this. And outside that, there are sanctions from Federal Ministry of Labor on non-compliance. The law of the country requires it. And you have the employer has the responsibility to protect employee while doing the job that he was employed to do in that place of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Do you have any other question in house? Okay, please introduce yourself, madam.
My name is Bukola Omochiyole. Mine is not actually a question for the contribution. I have the same. I really appreciate this your session, Doctor. There was a time I started working with a cleaning company. That's about 12, 13 years ago. And we ventured into fumigation and pest control. I had no knowledge of that, but there was a colleague of mine who was in charge of operations that was handling pest control and fumigation. And, I discovered that this guy is being exposed to chemicals without any, all the company told him to do is, just take milk after you are done with your fumigation and that settles it. And he uses, very ash. We don't even know, if not your exposure to all of these things, we don't know the difference. You just get to market, buy DFORTUNE, buy this, buy that, you just combine everything and use. And there was a particular day he went to Union Bank head office Marina, very tall building, 32-story building, and it was doing the fumigation. They were just two. And, with that stress, with that inhalation and everything, he fainted. In fact, the other person fainted as well. I wasn't around, I was on leave then. When I resumed, I was like, I think for people here, let's not be too concerned about the money. When I started my company, I told myself I'm not into fumigation. In fact, I started chatting with DFORTUNE and I'm not ready for fumigation. I need the necessary training. In fact, I had to register my staff for this training. When people tell me, come do fumigation, I am into cleaning for now. I am not ready for fumigation until I do the needful. Because this same guy I'm talking about is no longer alive. Just because of this, exposure to chemical, and it was a good staff to us. And till today, I feel it myself. So please, as employers of labor, let's do the needful. It's not just about the profit, about the money and all and what have you. Let us do the needful, not just exposing your staff to all of these chemicals, but give them what is needed. Let's do the necessary test. Provide every necessary PPE, not just a mask. Necessary PPE they need to conduct whatever job they need to do. I pray God will help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man.
That's very apt, and what she said is very correct. Like you are not supposed to deploy somebody to go and handle chemicals when you have not given the person the requisite training needed for safe handling of chemicals. And most times, when we have somebody die in such instances, the person didn't die. The person who owned that company killed that person. So that if you remember clearly, there was one guy in the Senate some time ago from Delta State that was proposing a law called the manslaughter the manslaughter bill. That bill didn't see the light of the day, and what that bill could have covered are issues like this. So such case where you send somebody in that has not been trained, that doesn't know anything about chemicals, to work with chemical, that person dies. That's not just occupational health issue. It's a manslaughter act, and that such an employer could be prosecuted. The truth is that we need to protect our people. When you finish working today and you saw somebody that worked with you, and retired, or many years after you see such a person on the road, and you see the person looking like a total contrast of who he used to be, will you be happy to see that I rightly supervised this person when he was working with me, knowing that what you really expose the person to cause the person the kind of health condition that the person has today? It's important that we put that in my life. For the duty that you talked about, when we are working with chemicals, understand that the fact that the same policy that is applied to confined space safety is almost the same policy that is applied to when we are fumigating buildings. Most times, no one person should be allowed or left to fumigate a building. Like you just said right now, the person fainted. Just imagine you leave one person to fumigate a whole building. The person get exposed to chemical. Your eyes should be affected. Inhalation. The person could faint. Loss of breath, loss of oxygen to the brain. The person could collapse, sudden collapse. Who knows that person has collapsed? And you say, oh, the person is fumigating somewhere, and only for you to come back to work on Monday, you see a corpse in the place where you send the person to fumigate. And these are not kind of good things that we want to hear. Let's be very careful as employers and see what we can do for cleaners. Not just fumigation people that are exposed to chemicals, even cleaners since COVID-19 and even before, we clean with diverse form of chemicals. Those chemicals, those things we used to clean, they are also chemicals. So we also need to protect ourselves while using those chemicals. There's a question here I saw from someone. He said, my question is those that work in agrochemical manufacturing facility to conduct chemical? Yes. If you work in agrochemical facility, you must also conduct chemical and last year. It's a pre-requirement and it's a standard. Thank you. And he also said, aside kidney and liver function tests, what are the other tests to look out for in medical tests? Primarily, the two tests are, we do physical examination on you to check you out, and if there are other things that are clinically present at the time of you came to the facility, then we conduct the urea electrolyte creatinine to look out for your liver, and we do the lung function test to look out for what may have affected your lungs and respiratory organs. So these are the two tests that are prerequisites in the chemical and last test. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. What are the practice sessions? Please, can I take one more from me now? Anybody want to make a contribution? Okay. Please, you introduce one. And,
I can barely hear that question.
I barely hear. Can you take this screen?
So the question is on the risk concerning the storage of the chemicals. So I saw that it's not even until when you open the chemical, when you are using it that you are exposed. Even that storage, I think there is a form of exposure. We discovered that at times, even where we are sitting now, there are chemicals around. And one way or the other, we discovered that there may be a feeling or the effect of the chemical that are around there. So I just want to know that related to what is what I've said, what are some of the ways that are recommended for storage of chemicals? Is this something that maybe you can store where people are, or maybe there's a way that you are supposed to store it so that you will not be exposed to it?
Thank you, Doc. Did you get that question?
No, I did not. Help me put it on so I can see.
Okay, he's trying to talk about chemical storage. That what are the best ways of storage of chemicals for human and environmental safety?
Okay, thank you so much. Chemical storage is a process altogether on its own. Chemicals are stored within specified atmospheric conditions by the manufacturer. So, and these chemicals are stored away. I'm happy you brought that. It are stored away from the reach of children. Stored away from the reach of children. There are some chemicals that are very toxic. They are very toxic. And even by the manufacturer will tell you that this has high possibility of affecting reproductive organs. So you don't store it away from where people are, so that the exposure are tightly closed, so that the exposure does not affect people's reproductive organs. And again, if you have to mix chemicals using the right mixing formula and put it in another container from its original container, please, I beg of you, remember to always label those containers. Non-labeling of chemical containers has killed many people. You put chemicals in a Ragolis water bottle and it's not labeled. Most chemicals are colorless and have the same look like water. Anybody could mistake it as water and drink it, and that becomes the end of the person. Please, let's understand that even while we're doing storage of chemical, let's understand that labeling of chemical is also a very key ingredient that we must also take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I think I have to go online to get somebody from online. First of Salami,
no, I'm having a lot of questions here.
First of Salami.
Okay, Salami, go on.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Festus. My first question is there any first aid care to be taken after a fumigation exercise? Take, for example, you just finish a fumigation exercise, and is there a first aid care you can take? Something like that could help neutralize the toxicity of the chemical within your system before the 6 months of the chemical handling test. Yeah, that's
Thank you so much. Question. Okay.
Question
go on.
2. What level of chemical system?
I can't hear you anymore.
What can you take after that?
Yes, first off, your second question, can you make it audible? Or you just type it, put it in the the chat room, the doc quiz. But Doc, you got the first question?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
I'm with you.
Yeah, sorry. Let me come again with the second question. What level of chemical can be considered toxic within the body system? I'll take, for example, we know we have PPEs and they can help in a long way to reduce this chemical exposure. Take, for example, you're fogging a room where you have to use a full face mask, and you're also entering that room when you're fogging. The level of chemical that will also pass through the respirator and into your system, which is also reduced. I want to know the level of the percentage of toxicity of these chemicals within the body system that can be considered very toxic to the kidneys and liver. You know, we have to wait for the next 6 months before we go for a chemical handling test. So before that time, I want to know the level of it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me take the last question. The toxicity of the chemicals are always written in the GHS, Global Harmonized Standard, like the manual that comes with the chemicals. So there's no one style fits all approach. So it depends on the chemical you are using, and it is documented there by the manufacturer. So every chemical doesn't have the same toxicity level, and they don't affect you in the same way. So it is not a cast in stone. Okay. Then the first question you asked, we've had that question over and over again. Some people say, because they were exposed to chemicals. Even some companies, we do this thing for. They say, because you're exposed to chemicals, they buy milk for you every month. Take this milk home so that you can drink this milk and you'll be fine. But the truth is that we do this out of ignorance. There is no science that supports this. Taking milk doesn't reduce your chemical effect in your body. If you are giving milk to your staff, you are giving milk to them just to go and enjoy. It's not because you want to reduce the chemical risk, but there's no science to it. We see that happen, and we try to correct it over and over again. Most of the places we have been to, there is no literature that speaks to that effect. So the best way to protect yourself from chemical exposure is safe chemical handling, use of the right PPEs, and those are some of. And then again, you do chemical and last tests as at when due. Those are some of the key elements that are valuable in chemical exposure prevention. Okay, does that speak to your case, Salami?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My very pleasure. Would you want me to take the questions I have here?
Sunday, Babatunde, you have a question, right? Can you just unmute before we go to the chat room?
Yes, sir. I have a question, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Deji. Yeah. My question is, I'm always so concerned about the people that are into pesticides. I'm into fumigation already. I'm a startup, and I also sell pesticides. But I discovered that sometimes most of the people that come to patronize you, these people, they want to kill mosquito in their houses and all those stuff. They just come, they will give me sniper, give me sniper, give me sniper. And I know the hazard associated with this pesticide. And there is nothing you can use to detect who actually is a genuine person that wants to carry out fumigation and the person that just want to use it as household pest control in case of the risk that is involved. And if there is any accidental injection, and it can cause accident, and they will be pointing, they can even come and locate you, that we will see the person that sold these pesticides to you. Is there anything we can do so that you can reach the kind of a protection on the people that are into selling of these pesticides, so that you can be able to be protected? That, oh, I have my area covered, somebody came to buy, something that one can do to ascertain the genuineness of these people. That's just my question.
Thank you, Mr. Sunday Babatunde. Thank you so much. You will live long for that question. The truth is that that's a very genuine concern he's just raised. And that question also boils down to the failure we have in our system. It boils down to the same system where you see alcohol being sold in bus stops and bus terminals. And these are things that fall on the purview of government. The truth is that those chemicals as snipers and other related chemicals are supposed to be controlled substance. But most times you find out that they're not controlled. Anybody can have access to it. And you have heard many cases where people just want to buy a sniper and the next thing they use sniper to commit suicide. These are not things that are supposed to fall into the hands of every ordinary citizen on the street. But because of the porosity of our market, without any form of control, this is what we have. But really, for you to actually sell those kind of chemicals, you ought to be licensed really and controlled. But this is what we have in this country. The truth is that there is no law that's governing this, and this is where the problem is. And you can't be protected. If you sell sniper to somebody's wife and use that sniper to kill her husband, and they point at you, this is where they buy the sniper, the law will prosecute you, because there is no law that is covering you, and there's no law that is controlling the distributions and the retailing of sniper. Thank you so much. Any other question?
Okay, Doc, a contribution from me now.
Thank you, Dr. Ehi. I'm Danjuma Haruna, and a participant. I work with NAFDAC actually, but I'm not here representing NAFDAC today. I'm here as a participant. But I would like also to share some of our experiences, especially in handling. Somebody asked a question, one of the participants asked a question about storage. Yes, you responded that always label the chemical. And we, on our own end, we tend to discourage decanting. That's dispensing of a chemical into other containers that are not originally meant for it. So in other words, we don't encourage decanting, as well as we encourage storing that chemical in its particular original container, labeled container. And most times we advise people, if you want to buy a chemical, don't buy a chemical without a label or whose label is falling off. Buy a chemical that its label is well affixed to it. And while you're buying, you read the labels to understand what you're buying. And the issue of sales of, I don't want to use any brand, but popular DDVP, diclovos, which are regarded as a tool in suicide, for committing suicide. What the agency is doing now is collaborating with agro-input dealers, that's sellers of agrochemical. Now we have a policy of mandatory listing of all agrochemical dealers. Right now, in collaboration with CropLife and NAIDA, we are training them and we are certifying them. After that, we'll go into the phase of mandatory listing. The mandatory listing now will now lead to us having the database of all agrochemical dealers in Nigeria. whereby henceforth, this will be the people that will be allowed to deal on agrochemicals. So a time will come that if you are not listed as an agrochemical dealer, because somebody asked the question, if you are not listed as an agrochemical, you will not be permitted to sell. And there are penalties for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayodeji. I like your contribution. My dear friend that just spoke, I like your contributions, and those are clear notes. But I speak to reality. Let me share with you. In Saudi Arabia, alcohol is officially illegal. But alcohol is sin in Saudi Arabia. In Nigeria, pouring, like my colleague just said, pouring the chemical into other container officially could be illegal. But in reality, does it exist? Yes. So when we make officials, those are clear official statements. But in the real sense, what is the practice? I give you a clear example. A woman buys sodium hypochlorite, maybe I say 30 cl or 60 cl bottle. And these chemicals will be used to clean. Definitely, it's going to dilute it to what is acceptable and safe enough to be used for cleaning. And that diluted one is going to be in the container. It's not going to be back into its original container. So how do you classify that? I've audited hotels, I've audited schools, I've audited many organizations, and this is the practice. Chemicals are stored. And globally, this is what happens. So knowing that this happens, what have we done? When you store chemicals outside its original container, please label the other container for safety. Yes, it may be officially don't decant for chemical, but the truth is that it's what happens. So how do you not protect that? See how you can label it so that people, in most laundering department of hotels, you see diverse chemicals being used. In the cleaning department of hotels, diverse chemicals being used. And these are stored into different containers. So what do you do? Because they have to clean rooms, they have to do a lot of stuff, they have to do washing of clothes. The standard globally is when you store that chemical, you have to label it so that people know what is in that container, which of course was not its original container. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah.
Contribution from me now. Okay.
Let me just ask something there.
Okay.
When you go to work somewhere, the proper thing is to label. But that's your labeling, there must be a coding structure. Because somebody you are going to work for, see you using, for instance, Majoja, that person will not call you again.
Yeah. Because
he will go and buy Majoja and use himself. But what you do is to code, your name is DFORTUNE. Put Fortune 0 there. Hello. This is business tactics. But the major thing is to label. Labeling is very important. If you put anything outside that you don't code it, you are exposed to quacks. People will just go out and buy what you are. It's a simple matter. Because you are already using it and you are exposed it to them. They will not call you again. Who are you to be called? When they have seen what you are using. So the best is to code. Even when you are writing, you don't write the data, you write Fortune 0. You know what you mean by Fortune 0. Am I talking sense?
Yes, sir.
And aside that, prevention is important. Let me start from here. Let me see your fingernail. You can see it has expired a little bit. Can you see? All this, look at it. Oh, come on. Even when you wear all the structures, put all the PPEs, how about all the nails that I put? Kill a nail. It's expired and we should allow you to be there. For what? Are you doing manicure or pedicure? But I don't know what to cure. You know. Want to go to pedicure, go to pedicure. This is pest control science, where you cannot do what you like or what you want. You must do what is necessary. It's under control. So these are vital information. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you so much, sir. I like the dimension. I like the dimension he brought in, and that's very clear. And I'm coming from the healthcare sector. Let me also share my view. What you just said is trade secret, so that people don't know what you're using. But while we do that, we also understand that there's also a risk to that. I give you a clear example. In my early days in the clinical environment, what we used to do, I'm sure you all saw that when you come to also to take medication, when we give you medication, we remove the names, the original name of the medication from the label, and use the hospital sticker to cover it. We remove from the original pack if it's syrup, and we give you without the but you know, at some point, a lot of people died, had adverse health reaction because of this issue. Even NAFDAC, my colleague from NAFDAC is there during the time of Dora Kuyile, how to speak against this. It is the right of every person to know the drug that he is given, to know the drug that is given. So if you come and use okay, let me use, where is the Fortune O, and perhaps you don't know that I'm also a chemist. I'm a chemist, but I don't do fumigation. But I need you to fumigate my office. And I said, what chemical? You say it's DFORTUNE. Oh, I know that DFORTUNE is not a chemical. I will ask. It points to our own professionality. For me, really, it doesn't matter whether people know what we are using. It's not what you use that is the issue. It's the technology, the techniques behind its usage. You may have the chemical and don't know what to do with it, but the person who is a trained pest control expert or a trained fumigation expert, we know how to use it. When I want my office fumigated, I don't do it myself. Even when I know the chemicals, that's not what I was trained to do. I allow people who were trained in a specific area to play that role in my business chain, and this is how it is. So trying to also put Fortune O. Fortune O could mean anything to anybody, and it could be, and that chemical, that mistakenly that chemical is left is dropped in a place. Somebody could use it for the wrong purpose, and this is what we try to speak against. Thank you so much, sir, for your contributions. Any other questions? Can I take the questions that are on the comments session?
Thank you, Doc. I want to ask Madam Grace Adetoye. He's also from NAFDA, but he's online. You want to make a contribution? Madam Grace, Can you unmute your mic before we go to other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adedeji. Good afternoon, all. Please, I just want to remind us there's a question. There's one question in our chat box that is requesting for whether we need chemical handlers test for warehouse handlers. It has not been attended to. Thank you.
We haven't attended to the questions in the chat, but we'll take care of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. We can now go to the chat for to pick up the questions there.
Okay, there's one question from Bio Green. It's asking, what is the cost of chemical handlers test? The cost per person for chemical handlers test in a year, one person is about 16,000 naira. That's 8,000 naira for every 6 months. Okay. Then someone is asking, Imans is asking, is odorless fumigation effective? This is not my job. Except you are asking me whether it's odorless fumigation also causes chemical risk. If it is chemical, yes, if it causes chemical, whether it has odor or not, or any gas at which it comes. Somebody is asking, can the test be done in either private or public hospitals? It can be done in either of them, either private facilities, so long that they know what it means to do chemical tests. But the truth of it is that these are really occupational health assessment. If they have occupational health, people that have knowledge of occupational health and can do this, yes, they can do it. Okay? Somebody is asking, DE over FE, is that a standard formula? I just use that standard. Yes, it's standard. That is a formula that talks about duration of exposure and frequency of exposure. Duration of exposure talks about when the person is working with the chemical, how long is his duty shift working with that chemical. And the FE, frequency of exposure, is talking about how many days a week, how frequently does the person get exposed to chemicals. Maybe someone that work with chemicals 8 hours a day and 5 days a week. So that's the duration of exposure, 8 hours a day. Frequency of exposure is about 5 hours, 5 work days a week. Then, do we need chemical handlers test for warehouse handlers? Yes, this was the concern that Grace Adetoye was worried about. It all depends. When you talk about warehouse, what is warehouse in that place where you work? If the warehouse is chemicals are warehoused there and chemicals are exposed in that place, whichever way or in any form, yes, you will need chemical handlers because you stay in that place. It's just like asking, does somebody who work in a generator house or whose office is close to generator house, does he need audiometric evaluation every 6 months? Yes. Why? Because the noise that comes from generator house could impair his hearing. So at every time, we want to know what level he is so that we can create quick enough intervention. If you work in a warehouse where chemicals are stored, how many of us have been to warehouses where we have a lot of cartons, and those cartons come with so much smell, and those carton is petroleum. So you go to inspect a warehouse, you have so much stack of cartons, and you have this particular smell in that place. Those are smells that come from the carton, and you know that carton has also been classified as petroleum. So you need chemical handlers test. If your warehouse you have a lot of chemicals that's in your warehouse, you also need to do chemical handlers test. But even if it's not, but those retinue of cartons that are stored in that place, and when you walk in, most times it's an enclosed place. You open your door and you walk in, the smell that comes to you are the smell from those cartons that you inhale for the period you are going to be there. And those are clear issues that you may also need a chemical handlers test. Does that answer the question, Mrs. Grace Adetoye?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Okay, what I also did, I left my details here in the chat box. Should you want to, even after now, you want to clarify a few things, I'm available to talk to anytime, okay? Are there further questions?
Doc, in that regard, we would love to have the slide. The people in-house and all have been asking for the slide. So that it will be easy for us to pick the contact. If it will be magnanimous.
Not a problem. What you will do, send me your email address. I will send you a PDF version of this slide. They can also use it to learn as they go in that job, okay?
Yeah, we are so grateful. We are so grateful for your time. Can we give Doc a round of applause? Thank you. It's been a very eye-opening session. Health is wealth, and this is very critical. It's a very critical course, and you all agree with me that it's been worth it, right? It's been worth it. It's an eye-opening thing, and we want to say once again on behalf of everybody that registered for this course, special thanks to Doc for your time. We're going to contact you for the chemical last test. In fact, I want to book for all my staff right away for the test, including myself. So, and I believe that everyone that is here today, they are going to also ensure that both themselves and their staff actually book. It's affordable, 8,000 naira in 6 months per person. It's not something, something that will give you, in fact, it's part of the prerequisite when you want to employ new people, so that you know that if the guy's skin is still okay before you even employ the guy. So, Dr. Ehi, we are so grateful. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the time it took you to put this together. We will invite you for more, and we are so glad that you really brought the A game. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. I beg to leave now. You have a very good deliberation, okay? Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Awesome session, right? Awesome session. It's getting hotter, right? Yeah. I hope you are not tired yet.